Hello, everyone, and welcome to World Water Day 2024. The theme of this year's World Water Day is Water for Peace, and it's a very apt theme because water is the largest consumed resource on the planet. But unfortunately for us, it's also a limited resource. Of course, there are large quantities of water on the earth, but the amount of water that can actually be used for domestic purposes, for industrial purposes, and all of that is rather limited. So it's very important that we conserve and use water resources wisely. And the negative side effects of not doing so is that we will increase income disparity, inequality, and just make it difficult for us to function as a society. So at IIT Madras, we recently started something called a School of Sustainability. And within this school, water is a key element of what we want to teach, do research, and advise policy on. When we look at water, we look at water from a hydrological perspective. How do we ensure that cities and towns don't face floods or droughts? We look at water from a quality perspective. How do we provide good quality either for household consumption or for industrial processes? And we also look at how we can close the water cycle. How do we ensure that we recycle and reuse as much water as possible so that we improve our water security? And as part of World Water Day, we have a wonderful panel with us. We're going to discuss and debate what's happening with regards to water in India and in the world, and how we are going to collectively enhance our water security. So I have with me Ms. Rupa Satish, who is the country head for sustainable banking for IndusInd Bank. We also have Ms. Matilda Lobo, who heads CSR for IndusInd Bank. I have to my left Professor Sachin Gunte, my colleague from IIT Madras, who is a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering. We have three innovators and entrepreneurs, Mr. Kumar Tangavel, Mr. Ridesh Soni, and Dr. Kamlesh Chowdhury. And joining us online, we have Professor Srinivas Chari from ASCI, the Administrative Staff College of India. So we have a very eclectic mix of people from the banking industry, from academia, technology entrepreneurs, as well as educators. And we're going to try to collectively see if we can push the needle forward a little bit on dialogues with relation to water. So I'm going to first start by asking Rupa a question. So Rupa, there's a tagline that you have in IndusInd Bank that says, good ecology is good economics. This is something that we at academia hold close to our heart. We say if you're actually sustainable, you can do better, you can be more profitable, etc. But it's not something that everyone really seems to believe. But you guys are certainly walking the talk on trying to marry good ecological awareness with good business practices. And within the larger ambit of ecology, water is a key focus. So can you talk to us a little bit about your strategic thinking within the bank and some of the activities that you're doing to push forward this mantra of good ecology is good economics, particularly with relevance to water?
Thank you, Professor. Fortunately, in IndusInd Bank, it is not merely a tagline. So we have been actually adopting this philosophy, I would say, for many years now within the bank. And if you see the bank's strategic planning, you will find elements of environmental and social consciousness embedded right from the strategic planning exercise. And then if you zoom in on the two main pillars of banking, which is, the business of banking and risk management. In both these activities, what we do is very consciously apply a lens of environment. So when we say good ecology is good business, that's what we mean. We are saying that let's look at environment and let us try and adopt business practices that sort of help in taking this agenda a little forward. For example, we have created a unit specifically, and obviously there is a clash with, the traditional focus on profitability and so on and so forth. So how do you mix the two, right? How do you marry, how does a commercially focused institution with fiduciary responsibility of managing public money profitably, how does that embed environmental consciousness into its business. So we have created a department on called sustainable banking, and one of the key pillars in that department is really looking at the opportunities that climate change provides us, and designing products and solutions for our clients that help them combat this challenge. For example, we introduced a green deposit where you source, where you make public aware of the need to contribute to financing of a green book in the bank, and then you channel the money that you have sourced towards building a green book. We introduced solar rooftop financing for MSMEs, and there are many examples like that. In risk management, also, what we do is we put a ESG sort of filter. So any company which is seeking a loan in IndusInd Bank necessarily goes through a ESG filter, which means that we check it, a separate group within the bank checks the company for their ESG risk. There is a scorecard, there is a rating mechanism, and once the ESG clearance is given, it then moves into the file, only after that moves into the credit committee for a credit discussion. So it's embedded in that way. And you mentioned also about water. So given the focus on water, you will see the focus across multiple facets within the bank, because we've been championing this agenda for many years again. Um, you will see Matilda speak about the CSR focus on water. In addition, we are very conscious in underwriting loans for water. We have a tie-up with ASCII, supporting innovators who are coming in for financing them and for helping them scale their innovations in water. Then we also have specific employee-focused volunteering initiatives to spread the awareness on water within the bank. So we try to look at the concept from all angles. Looking at and also we recently did an exercise on water scarcity, mapping, doing a heat map of our agri portfolio, and creating and checking whether are we financing, what is the vulnerability to water stress that our agri portfolio is exposed to. And of course, India is an extremely water stressed nation, so it did throw up some alarming numbers there. But fortunately, we have been in a position to look at both, in terms of the risk involved and the actions that we can take to safeguard our portfolio exposures with this undue climate change that is there, by putting caps and filters accordingly. So that's the way in which we are approaching this whole concept a little holistically.
Thank you, Rupa. The big takeaway for me here is that IndusInd Bank goes beyond just the typical commercial banking activities when it comes to sustainability, but you're also looking at bringing sustainability into your core processes of appraisals, loan disbursements, etc. But you're also going one step beyond that, do what in our world we would call research studies that actually help you understand the landscape so that you can be more responsible as a financing agency. So we'll come back to some of this later on. But I want to move over to Matilda. Matilda, I feel CSR is a very, very powerful tool that allows organizations to go straight to the grassroots and sort of create and implement change, right? So not just a strategic decision that's taken in the boardroom, it's actually boots on the ground trying to make impact on livelihoods and so on. And you had CSR at IndusInd Bank, and I know you guys do a lot with regards to water specifically as part of your CSR activities. So could you tell us a little bit about the kinds of activities that you're doing and the impact that it's having?
When we look at CSR, we look at it in terms of an integrated approach. We work on water conservation initiatives. Then, in terms of rejuvenating water bodies in the country. So we have done close to 21 lakes in the country that we have rejuvenated. Then we are talking about network of historical ancient wisdom. In Tamil Nadu, you have an entire network of lakes and ponds which used to democratize the distribution of water. And it's a very flood prone area. How do we resurrect those network of ponds and lakes? One thing is that it builds in the water security, but it also touches on livelihood. The other aspect is that we integrate climate resilient agricultural practices with the community. That is very important because if you have water guzzling crops, right, and no judicious use of water, the problem is not solved. So, community is at the core of it. How do we have community governance associations which are formed so that there's judicious use of water? Then, further to that, we are looking at technology and innovation, right? So, we have tied up with ASCII, which is part of the India Wash Innovation Hub. And we're working on both water and sanitation, which is very important because water contamination and the quality of water affects health and various variables in the country. So, totally to the well being. And then we're talking about how we involve the children who are the future of the country. So, we have adopted the Atal Tinkering Labs in our aspirational district program. And the children who are working on the problems which are closer to their homes, and predominantly they are related to water, agri, and soil. So this is, encompasses what we are doing at IndusInd Bank. It totally aligns with the country's Jal Jeevan mission. Then when you talk about the UN Sustainable Development Goal 6, it totally aligns with that. And further, I think it's very important for us to work in collaboration with government. So we do a lot of advocacy, work along with the district administration, with different key stakeholders, so that this fits into policy level issues. And that is going to be sustainable in the long run. Other larger partnership, I think, is very important with academias and research, because till the time we don't have data, we are not looking at various indicators and variables in the atmospheric or global indicators, how it will affect water in terms of the long run, in terms of the future. We are not going to solve the problem. It may be for today, but not for tomorrow. And so, further building on what Rupa mentioned, in terms of the principle of the organization IndusInd Bank, good ecology is good economics. We believe in the collective goodness of each and every stakeholder and play to the strength. And that is Sattvam, which means goodness. And our ethos is our country and our commitment. We are totally committed towards solving social problems in a sustainable manner.
Thank you so much for that, Matilda. Again, I think what I really liked from that is you can go ahead and rejuvenate lakes and ponds. That's one thing, and you guys are doing a great job on that. But you're doing a bunch of other things as well, holistically, looking at sustainable agriculture, looking at capacity building. And I think this is a challenge that we've often had, is we've looked at these in a siloed sort of approach rather than in a more holistic manner. So at IIT Madras, one of the things we're very proud of is we are also located in a campus that's 500 acres, heavily forested. In fact, you can see some monkeys up and behind us and so on. And we want to sort of look at this not just as a human challenge, but also as sort of a larger, ecological challenge. And you guys are certainly on your way towards doing that. So we're also joined today by Professor Chari from ASCII, the Administrative Staff College of India. Professor Chari was not able to make it here in person, but he's joining us virtually. Professor Chari is a household name in the area of water. As part of ASCII, he's not only done a lot of studies in the area of water, which have helped us advance our knowledge of exactly what's happening at the grassroots, at the block level, at the panchayat level, and so on. Also things with regards to water pricing. But most importantly, ASCII does a lot of training of officials who actually work in public positions at the panchayat level, the village level, the district level, the block level, and so on. So, Professor Chari, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, specifically with regards to the kind of training that you do, and how that has helped us improve our general awareness of how we manage our water resources?
Water and sanitation are basically wicked problems, and that requires a continuous engagement of the public sector institutions. It could be municipalities or panchayats. Requires financial institutions, requires innovators, and also civil society organizations. Towards this, WASH Innovation Hub at Administrative Staff College of India is making an attempt to create a mechanism where all these stakeholders could come together. We are currently working with the national governments. We are also working with the aspirational districts through IndusInd, and we are working with municipalities and panchayats also directly. The most important thing is to create acceptance in the public sector organizations for innovative solutions. So we are organizing training programs, we are developing some pilots, we are doing road shows at the district level so that more and more collectors, more and more district administration and municipal and panchayat officials accept new ideas, innovations. Now, demonstration of these solutions are equally important, and we are using the national government funds, we are using CSR funds as a convergence mechanism to make sure that we create certain pilots, we create some demo projects, we create some experiences so that these solutions get scaled up very fast. In fact, CSR as well as government funds can become a very powerful blended finance for these ideas, these innovations to take root at the district level, particularly the aspirational districts. And we look forward to greater penetration of these projects in almost all the aspirational districts. We are working with like-minded organizations like IndusInd. We are working with Swachh Bharat. We are working with Amrut Mission, so that many of these innovations will take root in, and it will also unlock public sector funding for innovations to take forward and create impact on the ground. I just like to say that, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important to have the culture of innovations in the public sector organization. As I said, it could be national, state and local level. We organize a series of dialogues, series of conversations with like-minded organizations. We are also taking these innovative ideas to the academic as well as public policy institutions like Labasna, like ATIs and such organizations, so that the capacity of the mayors, capacity of the engineers, capacity of the civil service or organization, capacity of civil servants also aligned with the larger cause of accessing water and sanitation innovations at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chari. We have with us also 3 fantastic technology entrepreneurs who are sort of focusing their efforts in the water sector. And I find this really interesting. I mean, at the Indian Institute of Technology, of course, we like to think we're at the forefront of technology. And the forefront of technology today seem to be things like artificial intelligence and so on. But several of these digital techniques can also be used for far more local relevant problems, such as that of water. And we've got 3 entrepreneurs, all of whom blend high-end technology with providing services in the water sector. So I'm going to first ask Kumar Tangavel.
So this iTank is the product that ensures on-time water supply, villages that is connected with the tap water supply. So I came from the very rural part of the village. We devised that iTank that ensures the water supply to the public every day at morning 6 o'clock. That is the challenge that we made it. So that relieves the stress of the women who are going for the daily wages. That gives a lot of very big impact in their livelihood. The villages don't have the water storage facility in their home. They daily rely on the tap water that comes in the tap. then they need to have very stressful moments in storing the water and going to the work. So implementing the iTank that ensures that water is being distributed every day on time, 6 o'clock in the morning and evening 5 o'clock. This project started 3 years back, and I've been connected to ASCII to make this aware in a larger audience to the IAS officers. And this a single tweet from our Erode collector connected me with the ASCII team. Then they spotted me and they have audited me, and they found that the impactness of this iTank is a very wide scope. Currently, this iTank is being implemented in Erode district in a good scale of 100 plus tanks and touching the lives of some 20,000 women. And it is the impact that water on time and the quantity also in right amount release the stress from their day-to-day activities, and they have a good time to have a family time, and also their work time is not affected. The majority of the women who are daily wagers that been taken care of. So with the ASCII, we were able to present these technologies to the aspiring districts in the last few months. We have been traveling with ASCII, and wherever this technology of iTank is being proposed, they say this is the thing we want, because the government is spending a large amount, crores and crores of rupees of making the water coming to the tanks, but it is not efficiently managed. They solely depend on the waterman to turn the cock valve to open the water. So the waterman is not able to know where the water it is, how much water in the tank. That now being digitized with this smartphone, the public itself know what is the water available in their over tank and what time the water will come. It's an informed decision. So there is no overflow, which has been a crime when it is done. So that has been totally avoided by iTank, that automatic cutoff of water overflowing. And when there is a no overflow, they have a sufficient water stored in the tank. And water equality, when we speak, the people who have money, economic power, they can start for the water. But when see in the rural, the women and the people are very deprived. So this iTank ensures water equality, so that they give the water in time and the right amount. The LPCD, what the government officials are talking, 55 liters per day, that has been much more effectively managed and effective. This is where the journey of iTank going to touch millions of rural villages, and the empowerment of women is going to happen with, say, giving the right amount of water. And when the water is available, the sanitation is taken care very well. That water tank that is connected to the local schools in the villages, when they have a good amount of water, the sanitation is also taken care. The pillar of sanitation lies in water. So the water security has been ensured, and on the top level, the government officials also know that this village is getting the water. That's an informed decision, a chain of hierarchy from the village sarpant, that's a panchayat president, to the block level officer and to the collectorate. We built the dashboard. So now this technology, when the data revolution has been happened all over India, now that IoT is connecting each and every tank of the villages to the district collectorate, and the collector knows that this is the right amount of water is going to the public. That has been envisioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumar. For those of us who may not have quite understood the relationship between gender equality and water, I think, Kumar, you've put it across very succinctly. If we have erratic water supply, then typically what tends to happen is women spend a large part of their day just trying to meet their water requirements, and that leaves them with very little time to be productive. Doing something else, and therefore their independence also comes into question. And so if you have good quality water supply, then you're effectively empowering women, and thereby achieving better equality and a better society. And also what was really nice, Kumar, about the story that you told is how you have an intervention that is a combination of entrepreneurship, technology, but also partnership with government. And I think all of these are going to be important parts. We'll come to some of these later. But I'm going to turn it over, and Kamlesh, I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about the wonderful work that you guys are doing using a slightly different kind of technology, more of the Internet of Things kind of an approach to solve water-related problems at the grassroots. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
This is Kamlesh from iNet Aqua. We need sensors to collect the data. So we're in the space of sensors for water quality monitoring. And again, this assessment is done at different levels. It can be done at a district level or a particular region is assessed, where we talk about spatio-temporal mapping of water quality. It is also assessed at the water treatment plant or even at household level. So all these require different types of solutions. It can be some kind of industrial unit which can be installed at a water treatment plant, and it helps us for 24 by 7 monitoring of water quality, whether the water which is being delivered to particular urban block or even to the village, whether water is being pumped from tube well, is it always good, or if right quantity is being delivered. And when this water reaches the household taps, we again want to assess whether when there is a leakage in pipelines or because households are far from the treatment plant, right pressure and quantity of water is not reaching. So it requires, as I mentioned, it requires different types of products. We have developed products which can be a bit rugged and can be installed at the source level. We call it as a stationary water quality monitoring unit. And along with that, we have some other products which are kind of mobile products, a briefcase type unit which has inlet for from tap water, and that tap water quality is assessed while the water flows through sensors. We can connect this unit with a smartphone app, and the geotag data can be collected. So we can very quickly have mapping of equitable distribution of water quality as well as quantity across the households connected to particular source. Now there are again multiple solutions. If we want to have very accurate assessment, in that case we need to use industrial sensors, and cost would be much higher, and it can be paid only by bigger organizations. But if some local organization would like to do such mapping study and understanding of accessibility of water across the village, then in that case we have some small devices which can be operated even by college students or school students, and in that way we can again create social awareness among the public. When they understand about water quality, whether it is good or bad, then they know more about what to ask when they are talking to concerned authorities. So our products are mainly focusing on accessibility of water to all the tap connections across the village as well as urban areas, and it also supports creating social awareness among the public about knowing more about availability of water as well as quality of water.
Thanks for that, Kamlesh. I think two things stood out. One, which is a point that I think Kumar also made, is that both of you are now able to get data at such a granular level that we can actually make pinpoint decisions on either water supply or water quality, which earlier was not possible without this kind of technology. You just knew roughly how much water was being supplied. But the other point that I really liked is in order to scale, we'll have to simplify this technology to an extent that it can be adopted everywhere. And your point about how you can bring this to a level where any sort of college student or perhaps even high school student can sort of use these kinds of technologies, allow this to scale nationwide very quickly, which is sort of what we need. So thanks for that. I'd like to now move on to Ridesh. Ridesh, you're doing fantastic work at OMSAT, looking at things like satellite imagery and seeing how that might provide us with information to better manage our water resources and provide water of good quality. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Imagine you had been given the responsibility of setting up a civilization on the moon. What would be the most essential resource you would look for sustaining life? Yes, you are absolutely right. It is water. Now, water on the moon was an interesting discovery. After Neil Armstrong landed on the moon in the 1967, there were several missions sent to discover this precious resource. Unfortunately, there was no success. Accidentally, in the year 1995, there was a space mission by the US spy satellite named Clementine, which was on the verge of its the end of its mission, by which it was ordered to go and inspect the signatures on moon. So Clementine in 1996 was the first one which gave the possibility that yes, there could be water on the moon. This discovery was finally validated by the Chandrayaan 1 lunar mission of India in the year 2009. Now, when I was working in the Chandrayaan 2 mission as a scientist, I was tasked for finding water on the moon. Now, considering the moon to be an arid place and using the same motivation behind the technology that was used to discover water on the moon by the Chandrayaan 1 lunar mission, we said why not develop the same technology for detecting the smallest droplet present underneath your feet. Now, I would like to. I come from Maharashtra, where there is a vicious circle. Now, as I describe this vicious circle, 2 out of 5 farmers in Marathwada district, that is covering 8 districts of Maharashtra, are facing water crisis. Whenever there is a water crisis, there is a food crisis. And whenever there is a food crisis, there is a migrational crisis. As it is evident in the year 2022 itself, 50,000 farmers migrated to other urban areas. Now, as the population of Marathwada is subjected to increase at 20 million by the year 2030, every drop per crop will count. So, in order to mitigate the solution by using advanced earth imaging techniques, we monitor the changes happening in the groundwater levels. That is an indication of the overexploitation of underground water resources taking place. We have a diverse range of a spectrum of products that is ranging from groundwater source sustainability, that is telling where to build the groundwater recharge sites, to where the overexploitation in the underground water resource is taking place, to where to target the underground water resource, solar pump site suitability, robotics technology to go and monitor the borewell levels inside the pipelines, detect algae detection, rust detection, etc., illegal connections. And we have a technology for converting hard water to soft water, which is a kind of a system that is not using any power source of supply. That is essentially a big problem when it comes to farmers not having electricity present on the field at date. So, having done ideation, brainstorming, and market research, we have scanned around 44,000 hectares of land, created 3,800 water points, recharged 17,000 kiloliters of water per month, and benefited thousands of smallholder farmer families. Now, we are different because most of the solutions in the Indian market are only focused for groundwater detection. But research has given the power to us to have forecasting abilities, unlike any other solution present in the Indian market. Additionally, when I talk about groundwater, it is not more of a technological intervention problem as much as it is a socio-economical problem, considering the demands of water sellers, water buyers, and control groups. Therefore, we organize hydro-social contracts to ensure equitable distribution and resource allocation to each stakeholder in the groundwater value chain. Now, having perfected this technology, we further developed this technology for finding leakages in underground water pipelines. The data that could penetrate 60 meters in the dry soil for detecting underground water resources could penetrate 10 meters into the concrete to detect the subsurface water signals in the urban areas. So we did this project for the smart city Udaipur with the help of ASCII, and we detected 47 leakages, saved around 36,000 kiloliters of water, and revenue water of 80 lakh rupees was saved due to the same. With the help of IndusInd Bank and ASCII, currently we are working for the two aspirational districts of Bara and the Osmanabad, where this implementation would be going to take place. So, thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, Ritesh. I was fascinated that this wonderful story that you told had its genesis in a research organization, right? So in ISRO, when you were a scientist there. And of course, at IIT Madras, we are a research organization, and I have with me my colleague Sachin Gunte, who is one of our top researchers in the area of atmospheric and climate sciences. So Sachin, a lot of the research that you do helps us in some way complete our understanding of the hydrological cycle. So you do work that predicts, for instance, the size of water droplets, and therefore we could possibly enhance our prediction on precipitation, etc. And what that could do is provide better data for the Rideshs, the Kamleshs, the Kumars of the world, so that they could target their interventions and innovations, in a much more sort of specific and granular scale. So could you tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you do, and also how far away are we from research that can actually be implemented in practice?
Thanks, Ashwin, and then thanks to everyone for having me here. So I think I'll pick up from the word which you said, the hydrological cycle, and then I think this is for the first time I'm seeing that, where all the technocrats are sitting, and then the corporate world is setting that you are using the word hydrological cycle, and that's really great, and that sums up basically the story about that why this is important, because you are talking about the water management and quality and quantity and everything once you have it on the ground, right? You can't simply bring it from the cloud down here, right? And this is where our center, which I lead here at Atmospheric and Climate Sciences, what we do is that it is important that where this rainfall is going to fall, how much it is going to fall, how this climate change is basically going to change the precipitation pattern. Like for example, around 80 plus percentage of the annual rainfall in India, we get it from our Indian summer monsoon, which happens from June to September, right? And then if you look into over the last couple of decades, maybe you would see that the annual or the mean of the rainfall during monsoon has not changed, but then the intensity and frequency of the extreme rainfall event has changed over the last few decades. What it means is that, let's say, suppose if you receive 800 plus millimeter of rainfall during monsoon, that number is still same, but maybe and then it was equally distributed during the monsoon season. But now what happens, maybe 30% comes in June, 10 in July, another 30 in August, and remaining in September, and that pattern has been changing. Now, unless we don't understand that what and how this pattern is going to change in coming years due to the climate change and why it is happening, I think I don't really know that what probably they would do, right? And that probably really leads us to the fact, hopefully, that they would look at to us saying that, hey, what is happening? Like, can you please tell us that where it is heading to, because I need to put it into my app that, like, how much water is there in the tank, or he just need to look into this fact that how do I monitor the quality, or he just need to look into this fact that where the whole water has gone, where it is flowing, right? That's basically brings in, and then the one good thing which is happening now, the corporate, like thanks to IndusInd Bank, that they have realized the importance of this fundamental science, where it is coming from. And then what we are then going to try and then look into the future, that how the pattern of this precipitation is going to change over the period of time. For example, let's say if you take rice, potato, and coffee, right? If you simply go and look into this fact that how much water is required to produce 1 kg of rice, 1 kg of potato, 1 kg of coffee, there is an order of magnitude difference in that. And what we then want to do is that if you look into this agricultural aspect, that where you are now currently harvesting potato, probably would not be able to do that in coming future, right? Because maybe the water scarcity would be there, or the precipitation pattern is going to change with that. Now that's one aspect of it, and then, as I said, thanks to IndusInd Bank coming forward to give us this opportunity, and then realizing this importance, that why it is going to be important, and then the work which we are going to do now, look into the exactly the contrasting environment, where you have an area where you have the drought prone area, and then see how it is going to change and what are the resilience practices which are required, and then at the same time you look an area where you have the flood prone area, and then what are the resiliences required. Now that's one aspect of it. That's the reason this hydrological cycle, how the precipitation pattern is going to change, how the cloud formation is going to change, is going to important. But at the same time, I remember that at some point of time when I used to travel by train, I never carried a water bottle, or I never brought a water bottle. I used to carry some that bag which we used to have, and then when the train stops, run there and then fill it that water and then drink it. I probably do not recall that I was was sick because of it, right? And then gone are those days. And then why that is happening, that one of the important part which I do believe is that this change in the precipitation pattern, right? You don't really have the local source of the water bodies which could be quickly brought into this fact that you could use that. So maybe we have a long not really a long way, I would say, but then the most important is that now, since everybody is coming together, I do believe that we are on the right track, that at some point of time, if not my daughter, maybe my grandchildren would be able to drink the water the way we used to do when the train stops on the station.
Thanks, Sachin. Again, well, I hope it'll happen far sooner than that. I'm not sure we have that much time to go till your grandchildren's generation before we solve the water problem. But we'll be optimistic. One of the things, again, that you said at the end was you alluded to this notion of partnerships. And I think that's very critical in terms of everything that we've heard over the last half an hour or 45 minutes today, is that none of us by ourselves can solve this problem. So we need entrepreneurs who are bringing technology to the grassroots, but you also need research that's being done that informs what we need to do. We need financing, because all of this has to be executed on the ground, and we need the support of people from government, and their capacity sort of needs to be built. So in some sense, it's really nice to see that banks like IndusInd Bank are coming together and supporting academia through some of your CSR initiatives, supporting these entrepreneurs, and also supporting organizations like ASCII that in turn help build capacity within governments. So in the spirit of, and by the way, these partnerships no longer can only be national, because if you look at the water ecosystem, these are international. Several of our water bodies and rivers cross geopolitical boundaries. What happens in terms of emissions in one geography will lead to precipitations, whether it's hurricanes or typhoons or droughts in another geography. So I think these partnerships also have to be expanded internationally. But just wanted to quickly pick your brains, both Rupa and Matilda, in terms of how can banks like IndusInd Bank, either through the conventional banking functions, the new sustainable banking vertical that you have, or through your CSR, support more of these kinds of entrepreneurs who are actually trying to, are doing high risk work in some sense, but are also likely to make a lot of impact. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very, very rightly said, Professor. Actually, partnerships are at the core, I would say, for bringing solutions together like this, especially in areas where there is a lot of innovation coming in. Now, when it comes to mixing innovation and providing finance, without finance, you can't scale, however good the solution we see on the ground. But unfortunately, financing is in India, it's a credit-starved MSME sector, right? The entire sector around here, they find it, banks seek a collateral for financing, small organizations, and most of them are first-generation entrepreneurs who don't have ancestral properties to provide as collaterals for banks, and so the problem persists. So one of the ways in which we have tried to overcome this challenge is really through appropriate partnerships. Partners who can take layered levels of risk in financing requirement. So say when an organization is in its initial discovery stage, when you have to fund, for example, research, when you have to fund innovation, it is most suited for grant sort of financing. You also so that is when we either ourselves or through our partners we provide that type of financing, and as the innovator scales up, then we do encourage them to do a pilot which establishes a cash flow for their model, because only strong business models are sustainable in the long run, both for the solution itself and for solving the problem on the ground, as well as for the financing partner. So it is important that a pilot is done which establishes that this will solve the problem in a sustained manner. It will also provide the right cash flow to that company to sustain itself and its operation and to pay back its debt. Once the pilot is successful, so piloting requires a different type of capital. Again, commercial banks are not best suited. So multilateral agencies then come in. We partner with several of them who come in and who help in the pilot this thing. The understanding is that these are catalytic capital. So which means that once the pilot is established, they are then able to catalyze commercial capital to come in to then build for scale. So once the innovator establishes that a strong cash flow based business model which is profitable and sustainable is there on the ground, then you can attract bank financing. Typically, before bank financing, you get NBFCs come in who have a slightly higher risk taking ability, and then as the maturity sets in into that organization, the bank finance comes in. So we feel that our role is really to step back and look at the whole scenario, and not just say that you become ready and I will come in at the last stage, but to really, be there with the innovators, right? So that is what partnerships, that's how we look at partnerships. For example, our partnership with IIT Madras, our partnership with ASCII, our partnership with philanthropic agencies, our partnership with multilateral agencies, with NBFCs, and then the bank finance which comes in. So that sort of, builds in the whole ecosystem which is available with the problem solution at the center of it. That's the approach.
Thank you so much. Matilda, any thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, Rupa is already covered. Purely, we are looking at CSR to be catalytic funding, right? And how does it get into more of a system model where you engage with multiple stakeholders? Partnerships are also critical to build trust and cooperation, right? And with trust and cooperation, you then are able to create a equitable model, which is very important for peace and harmony also in the society, because if there's no equitable distribution of water, that will result in unrest. We have seen that also in the past and even today, where there are disruptions amongst society. So looking at CSR more in terms of a catalytic funding, that's where we look at partnership with research organization, academia, because that gives you a multiplier impact and gives you a better social ROI, right? And the impact is then at scale. So how do we come in from CSR, supporting capacity building of administration, of academias, of innovators? That's how we look at it from CSR, which directly will impact the society at large.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks to both of you for laying out a little bit of a landscape of different kinds of interventions that are required. So it's not just a simple question of I've got an idea, can you fund it? There are different sort of layers of interventions, capacity building is required, all of that. So I think that's very useful to sort of understand. I now have a question for our three entrepreneurs, and maybe it's the same question, but maybe Kumar, you can answer it first, and then we'll go in the same order in which we had our initial remarks. IndusInd Bank has clearly showed a commitment to help with in this sort of sector. At IIT Madras, we have a commitment to do research in this sector. What is, if you had to pick one challenge that you're facing that somehow we could all collectively partner and remove, what would that one challenge be? So just one challenge from each of you.
That one challenge is that implementation. When we directly go and say to that village level or the administration government level, they don't believe. When we come through ASCII and to the top directorate from the district collector, so it has been well here. So when we go and directly market with that the product to that villages, it is not at all possible. It is a top-down approach that has been now is well taken and well flowing right now. That is the when we have a good partnership with ASCII and the banking sector like this, as we put our hands on in the aspiring district, then this has been well taken in a good tie-up of a background partnership.
Mr. Kumar has mentioned rightly, not only acceptance of the solution at even at official levels, but acceptance of solution at the ground level is also important. So in that case, when we connect through local NGOs or the connections which are coming from IndusInd and ASCII, then in that case, when local panchayat and local authorities inform the people at ground level that these are the solutions which are going to help us in solving the local water issues and water problems they are facing, then those are well accepted. So of course, social awareness and connecting with right people is a challenge. So of course, we are getting help in that from IndusInd as well as ASCII.
Right. Thanks, Ridesh. Your one challenge.
So, in context of the groundwater, and as I think the nationalized banks would also be able to agree with this problem, is groundwater predominantly it's dominated by those pseudo-scientific water dowsing experts who come with twigs and coconuts and say, okay, go for drilling. But and I think every farmer is like well aware of the water harvesting that it should be done, but who does it? So in terms of implementation of such kind of efforts require a kind of an incentivizing mechanism to such kind of stakeholders that will promote such kind of not only the exploitation but conservation. Exploitation and conservation should go hand in hand. So if we can incentivize our stakeholders by the use of such some kind of credits in some, say like water credits that can be given to them, and there could be a kind of a framework that is already existing with the say carbon credit system, I think that would be able to make the shift from groundwater conservation to exploitation towards groundwater conservation.
Yeah. So thank you. I think all three of you, in some sense, have talked about credibility as essentially a key challenge that all of you face. And Rupa, they've also all said that association with an IndusInd bank or with an ASCII and so on sort of augments that kind of credibility. So, do you have some thoughts on how we could sort of help these entrepreneurs from that perspective?
No, indeed, it is a challenge because when you are starting out, really, you there are a lot of disbelievers, and you have to go through the process of trying to get support and get the buy-in of various people. It is a tough journey you have chosen when you are an entrepreneur, but we are happy to partner. One idea that I was thinking was that having spotlight series with entrepreneurs. We do that fairly often. We put the spotlight on certain successful stories of entrepreneurs who bank with us, and we showcase, because it's financing is not always the solution, right? Like you have aptly pointed out, there are multiple problems. One problem you said was about credibility. You spoke about social biases, the kind of practices that happen. So spreading awareness together with scientists like you and with association with IIT Madras, really it is very important, I feel, in the society to get over some of these practices which are so steep, very backward and biased, kind of unscientific, having its. So you spoke about social practices which are ingrained in biases that people carry in their minds, and very unscientific, many of them. And I think we must, as responsible citizens, play a part together with organizations like IIT Madras to highlight some of these misconceptions that people in villages have, and I'll be very happy to support you in that endeavor.
Thank you, Rupa. Sachin, on the same question on credibility, as researchers, we also get this vibe sometimes that your work is very good, but it's very theoretical. It's very mathematical. It's very hard to understand, and it's not practically useful. So, how do you see partnerships such as the one that we have with IndusInd Bank on, through CSR on this kind of collaborative research, helping break some of those myths and being able to say, no, this industry institute kind of partnership can actually lead to practical solutions on the ground?
Yeah, that's the thanks, Ashwin. Again, this is the interesting question, and then we our at center has we have been struggling with this particular question, right? That how do we really implement? I mean, as you rightly said, oh, fine, we publish top quality papers, like even Nature, Science, they recognize our research globally. But then this typical question, so what? Aage kya, right? How do you implement it? The one of the things which happened with the IndusInd Bank particularly is that when this partnership came up, basically, it came out of a mutual respect. Neither they expected us to compromise on what our values and then importance of the research are. And then at the same time, they also said that, like, this is what our values and systems are, that how do we want to support it. And I'll try to put it in terms of a very simple example which probably brought us together, is that when you talk about the climate change, right, so the climate change is not a linear phenomena. Let us understand that, right? So we try to study the climate change science under the different RCP scenarios, which represents, like, representative concentration pathways. कि अगर कभी business as usual रहेगा तो कितना temperature, if it increases by this much percent and this thing. And one of this thing in the science is very important, that then we can do some sort of a scenario modeling. And these kind of a scenario modeling is something which really puts our foot on the ground, saying that no, if this happens, what do you have to do? If this happens, we have to do. So this credibility gets established, that when it is onus on us, that how do we sell our science properly to the people, those who we are partnering with, to show that why this is important and what kind of the results it will yield on the ground, which will eventually benefit the society. So I think it is basically coming from making them understand that why science is important, and then also the openness. Particularly, I'm thankful to the IndusInd Bank that they said, oh, you know what, we are really very much interested in whatever we do is backed by the strong science in that case.
Thank you, Sachin. I mean, we can go on discussing water for days on end because there's a lot of expertise on this panel, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. So, in summary, I just wanted to say a couple of things that I sort of felt come through this panel. The first, I think, is that the level of maturity with which we are discussing water today has just grown by leaps and bounds compared to what it was perhaps a few days earlier. When I look at the entrepreneurs today implementing technology, this is not simple stuff. You guys are bringing in pretty complex tools and technologies to solve the problems of water. We've got organizations like IndusInd Bank that have really thought through this process of what is the kind of role that a financing institution could potentially play, not just in terms of being able to give loans or financing, but sort of in creating an ecosystem. And when we look at the research that's happening, it's no longer research just by environmental engineers, although they have a very important role to play. It's research done by climate scientists, environmental engineers, policymakers. There's a lot more maturity in how we're approaching this. So I think that is very heartening to see, and hopefully we will continue to make great strides towards water for peace. But at the same time, I think we all agree that there is a long way to go. I think I really like this issue of credibility that the three entrepreneurs brought out, because I think that is a great challenge. There are ideas are a dime a dozen. We've got several billion people on this planet, many of whom feel that they know exactly how to solve this. How do we let the real quality bubble to the top, and how do we sort of scale these across not just a national scale, but now a complete sort of a global scale, is a big challenge that we'll have to look at. How does research remain practical while also providing a better understanding of science that, by the way, we still don't completely understand? How can organizations play a role both in terms of their strategic thinking, but also through initiatives like CSR to help push us all forward? I think there are a lot of unanswered questions, but I think we are on the right track. We're making progress, and hopefully by the time we get to World Water Day 2025, we would be much further down the path based on the progress that we're seeing today. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking your time and your excellent, thoughtful, thought-provoking remarks. And I'd like to wish everyone a very happy World Water Day 2024. Thank you.